All right, this is Fence Walker. I'm here with cleo20160416, and we're just going to do an interview. Is that enough introduction for you?
Well, I guess so.
All right. Well, we'll turn it to Cleo. So, my first question is, what is most important?
Most important to me or to the world?
Yeah, you...
I think to the world right now, global warming, climate change is the most important thing. And to me, myself, I very much want people to know that there is more than one way to go in this world. You do not have to be a religious person. And that is absolutely marvelous that there are people all over the country. There's about 25% of us who are secular. So that is very important to me.
I consider myself an apathetic as opposed to agnostic or atheist. So it doesn't really matter to me. Okay, second question it relates to religion and government, methods of control. What are your opinions on that? And I will probably ask more in-depth questions after that.
Oh, separation of church and state is absolutely the bottom line. I really don't care if you're a Methodist, a Catholic, or whatever. If you keep your religion in your church and with your parishioners. But when you try to put it into government, that is when I speak up.
Yeah, I understand, thou shalt not kill, although I've heard it, remanded to thou shalt not murder, which is slightly different. But that's kind of a basic law that government should cover. But that's not really religion getting involved with government. That's just kind of government making sense. Would you agree?
That the government says thou shalt not kill, of course. It didn't have anything to do with religion. People knew way back in the dark ages that, hey, you go out and kill somebody, you might be killed yourself. No,
that's right.
No, that is not a particular government issue.
Okay, so more in depth then into religion. What is your background in religion?
I was very lucky.
Yeah.
I was very lucky. I grew up in a secular home.
Yeah.
And so that was marvelous. My mother grew up without religion, but my father grew up in the Roman Catholic Church. So when he was age 11, he went to the parish hall. He was a very bright man, very intelligent. And the people at the hall were playing cards. Well, my father was a very good card player. And at 11 years old, he tied for first place with another older man. And the priest said, we have to draw cards to see who wins. My father drew an ace. The priest said, the ace, of course, is the lowest card. You lose. That started my father thinking, and he thought himself out of the church.
He thought himself what?
Out of the church and religion.
Really? Just off of an ace?
Yes, because he started to think about it.
So that spawned his whole thing.
Right.
Okay. So your background then, you didn't start off with religion, so that kind of kills my second question, is what made you realize that you were not religious? Did you always knew that?
Well, I just wasn't. I enjoyed my life as it was. It was marvelous. We didn't have to worry about religion. Of course, I was curious and looked into it. When I was in my 20s, I had an unfortunate marriage. What I needed was a new husband, or a different husband. Instead, I thought, well, maybe I should look into religion. And for a few years, I belonged to the Episcopalian Church. Well, I had a couple choices in the town where I lived. One of them was the LDS Mormon Church, and one of them was a fire and brimstone, screaming and hollering church, and the Episcopal Church, so I chose the Episcopal. But after a while, I realized that they didn't have any bottom line answers, and I wanted facts. And so that was my short term in the church. But I'm glad I did it because I was open to read, you know, some things in the Bible, which is horrendous, yes. and stuff like that during that time. And so when people say to me, oh, you don't know anything about religion because you grew up secular, I say, oh, yes, I do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it doesn't make us ignorant, just means we're not involved.
Right.
Okay, now this is my playful question, and we've discussed it before. If you were a superhero, what would your superpower be? What would your superhero name be?
Well, like I told you before, I'm not really into superheroes now at my age.
Right.
But when I was just a slight bit younger, I was a Trekkie. I adored the Star Trek movies.
Yeah.
And I would say some of them were my heroes.
Okay. But what about you in your life might someone else consider you a hero for?
Oh, I did a lot of things.
I'm sure.
I did all the traditional things regarding religion and regarding women's rights. And I wrote letters, I gave talks, I picketed, I marched, and I, at one time, chained myself to the Mormon temple because they were laundering money, and we knew it, and we had the goods on them. And so President Kimball was the prophet of the Mormon church at that time, and he was going to come and dedicate this grand new edifice in Bellevue, Washington. And so 19 women and I and one man, we chained ourselves to all the gates, and he couldn't get in. And of course, the paddy wagons came along and took us to jail, that kind of thing. And so we made our statement. We were given a court date, and we all came up with things that we were going to say in court, and we had the goods on them. And at the last minute, the Mormon church backed off because they knew it would be out in the papers then. And they didn't want that.
They didn't like the limelight.
No. No, see, because they were in the wrong.
That's heroic to me. My superhero is surviving a brain tumor, which really isn't a great superpower.
Well, that's important.
Yes.
Important individually for your life. Yeah.
Yes. I think my comic book superpower would be showing other people that they have superpowers, granting them superpowers.
That would be nice.
So I've been really enjoying this question with all sorts of different people. I get so many different answers. My last and final question. Actually, I had a few others. I had asked you, at what age does one give up on seeking a lover? And I'm glad you laugh at that, because that's the intent behind that. You know, I want a human, humorous thing.
Well, I've given up. My husband died 3 years ago, and at my age, there's no one out there that I'm interested in. I'm having a good life. I enjoy myself, and I don't mind being by myself.
But you did have a lover up until that point.
Yes.
That is wonderful. I find that fascinating. It's not even really appropriate for this interview. I just find it fascinating. That's between you and me.
Well, that's because people really do not know about older people. In the general public, yes. and so they're surprised at learning various and sundry things. Of course, I never fit the stereotype, and the stereotype is like old grandma on her last legs.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not going to be old grandma on her last legs until suddenly I am.
Yeah. No, there's.
I have a great granddaughter, and she is 10 years old. So I have a granddaughter who is 39.
Wow. Yeah, there's a tacky comedy movie called Yellowbeard, and one of the lines that I really like in there is that he says, "They'll have to kill me before I die." You know, and that is just a good attitude.
That's humorous.
Yes. Okay, so now my actual final question, which I ask everyone, are there any questions that you would like to ask me?
Why are you doing this?
I've gotten that several times. I've had the camera a few years. I wanted to participate online. I've seen other people. Jacqueline Glenn is a young atheist that does an online show, and I really do like that. But I wanted to also involve other people, both people that I know and that I don't know, and
get a cross section.
Yeah, it's also a part of connecting with other people, which I've gotten as an answer to my first question about what's most important, is making connections with people. And I can appreciate that, so I'm doing that on camera now. And I want to share it with the world. Okay, you want the camera on me? Okay. So I want to share it with the world so that people, like you said, that they don't understand old people. Well, I don't think people understand young people or middle-aged people or people at all. And this helps me understand other people. Does that answer your question?
Very good. Thank you for the interview.
Okay, that's it. You're done now, huh?
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you very much. Cleo20160416.